Some issues with the other drive shaft. This is funny because I went to the trouble of removing all of the front and now I'm separating the gearbox from the engine with them still in the car. And then I'm going to see if the amount of space that we have over there is enough to separate the drive shaft from the gearbox, because where it's stuck, it's probably the intermediate bearing. I'm assuming that's the case, because if not, I'll really have to resort to cutting it, and I don't want to. So, in order to remove the gearbox, there are a couple of things that we need to do. First, I need to undo the bolts that attach it to the starter motor. I need to remove this plate that covers the flywheel. And there are a couple more things here, like for example the clutch cable. Yeah, that's one of them. And I think I had a cable, I'm not sure if it was for the rear light or if it was for the speedometer. We're gonna do that and have a look and see what's missing before we actually put something under the sump in order to take the weight, and then maybe put something around the gearbox with a crane in order to help sustain it. 2 hours out, but someone thought that it was a good idea to make a bigger one there, and one that seems to be Torx. Note to self, there should be a washer here instead of a washing machine. Since I was having trouble undoing the speedometer cable, I think that's what this is. From the gearbox end, at the gearbox end, I just removed it from here. I mean, in order to just push it to this side, that was probably not an issue, but it's already done for when we remove the gearbox, because I would like to reunite it with the engine before dropping them together. I also need to unplug this, I guess. The engine is already sort of supported by the jack. And now I think you can start trying to remove the bolts that attach the gearbox to the engine. I know that there is one over there, difficult to show like that, but that's the one. If you come here, there should be others. That's one of them for sure, and I'm finding that strange, only that one. But yeah, and here at the back we should have more. We have another one there. I'm going to find the other one. Before that, I have realized that behind the starter motor we have another bolt there that we need to undo. Otherwise, you know, this thing is already let me put this down. This thing is already shaking a bit, but the assembly is still here. Since there are a couple things in the middle of the way, we're using this articulation with a 10. Now we are talking, as you can see. I can't believe I'm doing this. It's an 18 actually. And we're on. There's also 2 Torx bolts here. One is already undone, the other one is there. After that, we can try to separate the gearbox from the engine. We have an engine mount. Seems a bit squished. Yeah, all of them are like that. I'll have to search. Now, this is a bit exciting. Immediately I see an issue. I don't think we can... Out of the way. I don't think we can remove this. We already have movement here. See if we can get crowbar in there. We can. There isn't footage of this, but there was one weekend that my father came to visit and he actually helped me with this, and it turns out that the amount of slack from pushing the gearbox was enough to actually remove the drive shaft. In theory, we could remove the starter motor before it drops in our fit. In theory. Let me just turn it around. Yes. Now, as you can see, actually you can't see anything. We still have to move this engine wiring loom out of the way. And we'll really have to do this, which is annoying. Now this is completely separated. Thank you very much. And we can just remove it. I think you can see how fiddly this is from that angle. And I think we're done from here. Always. This should come up a bit more, or maybe not, because it has free wheel, apparently. Yes, that's it. Good boy. It's just one that is stuck there, and voila. Our wiring loom is out of the way, it seems. Hooray. Since we'll have to swap the high pressure pump here to the other engine block, I can just undo the connection. There are the things that we shouldn't do. Like that one is already done, but that one over there isn't. I need to remove this hose here and this one here. Okay. Now I can see this hose here being an issue if I don't undo it at the back, because I don't want to risk getting through it. And there's another one for the heated matrix, I guess. That's also connecting over there. Better to just undo them. Given that all the hoses are connected there, I'm just gonna undo those bolts and leave that part hanging. We might have a little bit of water leaking out of here. Yes, we do. Yeah, that should be disconnected. Let's face it, the hose that comes from the thermostat will also need to be transplanted. So there's really no point in not undoing it now, and it will only annoy us as we are trying to remove the engine. That's not a good one. Not too difficult. It seems it will also be smart to undo this one here. It's coming. It seems the gearbox is not going anywhere because this is not even making any pressure. I think the hour has finally come to actually remove the engine. Yeah, I think we have everything out of the way. I have done this off camera, but I noticed that the engine that I bought came with this seatbelt, which is strong, as you know. Seatbelts need to be. There are these little tabs, let me show you from here. These little tabs in these engines that are really helpful in terms of lifting it and not damaging anything else. So what I've done, since I didn't want to undo the knot that there's in that, was replace the brackets with the ones that were in the engine that I bought. And now we just have to remove the tension from here, put the jack under the gearbox just to make sure that it doesn't fall face down in the floor. And then I just need to undo this engine mount. Actually, if I want the engine to come from at the top, I think I'm going to remove the entire thing. I'll have to remove this one and also this one. That seems to be holding. And now we have one final guy to remove. Interesting angle, you'll find it. Another big bolt. You see, I was done. I can just undo these bolts, and that makes my life much easier. As you can see, that doesn't quite help much. You know what? Might not have been enough to undo the mount, but it's now separated from this one, so this can go up. No bother. Now, let's try to I think it will eventually move out of the way. I have to try and move this a bit further out. It's looking good. Is this the best way of doing it? No. At least now I can try and see exactly where the gearbox is stuck. And this is going to be something comical, I suppose. Because the gearbox has nowhere to go. It's currently trying to come out with the engine. It's looking chaotic, but the good news is that we're already clear here, and we're already clear here. That was not ideal. Guess I won't be reusing the clutch then. Bother. That's a pretty cool sight, and even ruining the clutch doesn't really annoy me that much, because I was probably going to replace it. And I mean, the engine is out and the gearbox is probably perfectly fine. The drop was really small. I was a bit careless, okay, and not thinking properly, but still I put the jack there, the jack stand, so it didn't fall to the floor. And now we just have to put this on the tires. Finally, I'm really happy and relieved. Now we just have to maneuver our way out of here. And because I didn't learn anything, I'm using the hoist to also try and maneuver the gearbox. There's a lot to see here. This is burned in the past. And I'll take the opportunity to actually give it some more soundproofing, and we can do it there too, I think, with something that's resistant to heat, I guess, because we have the exhaust right there. You can see that, yeah, that boot was okay until I got to the MOT, and then it got loose. I don't even know where the... Oh yes, it's somewhere here, the zip tie, but not doing much. Access is incredible, really good to try and diagnose our problem with the knock, which I think is this disc, but actually it doesn't look like it's a disc. Yeah, we'll see about that later. This has gone relatively well. I mean, no one's hurt, apart from the clutch plate. You can still see some vestiges of something burning in the engine. Yeah, you had a good life. And some parts of this engine are still gonna be used in that one. We need to actually use this one because it's different to that one, and in order to work with the Magneti Marelli ECU, yeah, we need to do that. I'm going to remove the pulleys for the belt in order to check if the camshafts are the same, because someone told me in the Facebook page that they might not be. The pistons, I've checked numbers online and they are the same. At least it seems like they are the same. Right, time for a bath. Now that the engines are out and I'm having a better look, you can already see that there are differences in terms of ignition, because we don't have that in our original engine, because it's a different ECU, so probably doesn't need that. This should be a module for the ignition, I suppose. As you can see, we have these vacuum lines here that we don't hear, and the position of the idle control valve is also different. And I think that's the main difference. Is actually the manifolds are pretty much the same as far as I know. I'm looking at other sensors, and we have this one here too. It's basically the same thing. It's good to have a good look at this before actually fitting the engine in place, because now is the time, really. The injectors are likely different, but that's not an issue because we're replacing the entire manifold. I'll need to check the part numbers for the fuel regulator and the other one for the impulses, I think. It's also part of the fuel system, but I would say they are basically the same part. I don't see why there would be a difference. For now, I think I'm going to start with removing the clutch kit. Right, no socket wrench for me. Come loose. Yes. Okay. That looks alright, I guess. You can see we still have some life in this disc, in both sides, I think. Now, how much life it is, if it's 15,000, 30,000 kilometers, I don't know. A bit difficult to get these wrong because they are different sizes, but I'm still putting them on the ground in the right order. That's one cover. You thought it would be one cover out of the way. It is. Okay, maybe that has a little more tension, less tension, sorry. It should. It's not terrible, you know, but I think it should be more like that and not like that. At least it's still in place. No? You don't come out like that? Surprisingly tight, I must say. Okay, I was going to remove the ignition module. Two of the bolts rounded because it's a very thin torque screw, and yeah, whatever, I'm just gonna drill them out, I guess. For now, we're just going to remove this intake manifold. It should just be the 4 bolts that we have here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then after this is removed, I'm then going to try and twist the 2 hoses that we have underneath that collect to the sump for ventilation, I guess. Damn flies. And it's not even that hot this summer in Portugal. It's actually pretty wet and miserable, which is strange. I don't know if that's the effects of global warming, that I wouldn't be surprised. One bolt. Oh wait. Oh yeah, we still have to undo this. That was a bit of an oversight. Okay. Will it be easier now to try and twist this? I'm not sure about that. I'm just gonna put them back in place. Removing the filter will probably make this easier, and we're gonna have to do that anyway. Let's get a good bite into that. And now, let's see if it budges without much sweating. It does. Marvelous. Seems pretty effective. Excellent. Fine. I'm going to complain the whole time. Out. Oof. Jesus. That was difficult. But off we go. This is massive, this intake. It actually looks very compact when you look at it without the huge intake. I mean, it's not that big, you know, but it's probably just compared to the engine. Because it's a single camshaft 812 engine. Yeah, the head is actually pretty narrow. So that's why I get that impression. I suppose that now that I've sewn all of the heads, actually this one I've been able to remove it. Should be able to just get this out of here. Here's a trick that has saved the day. Basically using the auxiliary belt from here, which meant I've needed to remove this in order to lower the alternator. And also remove 2 bolts from here so that I could lower this, because this belt has to come first, out of the way. Anyway, using that belt, which is going to be replaced, I've put it around the pulley, and then I've just put a bolt in there. And with the tension, we've been able to just, with our breaker bar, to just rotate it, and it worked. The belt didn't snap. Let's remove this. Yes. This bolt is already out, this is already out, so I suppose we need to remove this from here. And now I need to remove this support over here. Well, there are some things that I have already done, but I haven't been able to record them because my phone was charging. But as you can see, both inlet manifolds are out. You have already seen me remove the one from the new engine. I have already removed the high pressure pump. Where is it? Oh, it's actually behind me. Yeah. And since I wasn't exactly understanding how a collar inside here would get out of the way so that I could remove this from the mount, what I decided to do was remove the entire mount. That's easy. They are exactly the same, so... Of course, when removing the mount, I have noticed that one of the freeze plugs was rusted out. It was not as bad, it opened as I was hitting it to get out, but yeah. We need to replace this. And we are in the process of, removing them, at least from this side for now. Because obviously I have to replace the freeze plug before I put the mount in there. I've also removed the flywheel. And as you can see, because I'm going to show you, there are some cracks, but I didn't feel anything operating the clutch before. And actually resurfacing that would probably mean that I can't use an OEM clutch kit. I would have to have something specifically made for the engine. I don't actually know much about that, so please let me know in the comments if you have that experience. I could try and source a used one that wouldn't have this problem, but in fact I think most of them develop this sort of crack. I think it's due to the way they are cast. So for now, let me just remove the missing plugs from this side so that I can actually order them at the shop. And this is how you do it. I hope I don't fumble my attempt at showing you. You hit it on the collar. It's starting to rotate, I think. Yes. And now, just to remove it with a pair of pliers. Set of pliers, whatever. And that's it. As you can see, it's already looking a bit crusty. And when I say new engine, I should say well used the engine. I'm a bit unhappy about this. Although the car has been standing for a while, probably without coolant, just water in there. Yeah, not really liking it that much. It's what we have. This shouldn't be too difficult. It's just a case of finding an appropriate socket so that you can tap it inwards in a way that you make sure it is straight. First, I might actually vacuum this. In principle, should be something like that. It would be nice if you would go in. Yeah, that's probably it. Guess I'll have to go back to the shop because, you know, that doesn't really strike me as a good fit. Should be probably 1 millimeter larger. What we can do now is put this in place. I can already offer one of the bolts up. Ah, God. Can you? Yes. Thank you. So, what's the big bolt that dropped? That's the one. And that's from here. Okay. I've just noticed that this wasn't recording, but this is already in place, and this is in place too. These are the 3 bolts that we need to undo on the other engine, on the older engine, that has served us so well and took us to the Netherlands more than a year ago. But now it's retirement time. I have to say, apart from me not reading a manual and this being the first time I'm really dismantling an engine apart, this is actually relatively simple. It's a matter of, I mean, it's a bit daunting because it's a lot of things from when I stopped the car, removed the front of the car until we got here. But if you give yourself time and are a little bit organized, you don't even need to be completely organized. Things go more or less smoothly. Right, that's an alternator in place.